Hulu is having one of its best years in a long time. Series finales that have been building for seasons, comebacks nobody saw coming, and bold new shows already generating serious conversation. Whether you are into drama, comedy, horror, or mystery, this platform has a 2026 lineup that does not forgive. These are the 15 series you cannot miss on Hulu this year. But before we get started, it would mean a lot if you took a moment to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for your kind support. 15. Spring Fever. What does it mean to fall for someone when you have not figured yourself out yet? That is the question at the center of this series, which premiered the 5th of January 2026. The story follows a group of young adults whose lives seem to be on pause, stalled careers, relationships in limbo, and a quiet but persistent sense that something is missing. When their paths unexpectedly cross again, old feelings resurface alongside new ones, and none of them are quite prepared for what comes next. This is not the kind of romance that wraps itself in grand gestures. It unfolds slowly, the way real feelings tend to through awkward silences, late-night conversations, and the terrifying vulnerability of letting someone in before you are ready. Each character carries a version of themselves they have been trying to leave behind, and the series does not shy away from showing how much of our past we bring into every new connection. There are no villains here, just people trying to love and be loved, while still figuring out who they are. Honest, quietly moving, and refreshingly free of melodrama. 14. The Handmaid's Tale. Season 6, final season. 6 seasons, 19 Emmy wins, and now, the final reckoning. The series that turned Hulu into a global prestige destination arrives at its most anticipated chapter. Elizabeth Moss, who stars, directs, and produces, brings June Osborne's story to a close after years of resistance, survival, and impossible choices within the regime of Gilead. What began as an adaptation of Margaret Atwood's landmark novel became something far larger. A cultural mirror held up to questions of power, bodily autonomy, and the cost of complicity. Every season escalated the stakes. Every performance carved deeper into the emotional core of what this world demands of its characters. Now, with the walls of Gilead facing pressure from within and without, the final season promises the kind of conclusion that has been building since the very first Red Cloak appeared on screen. Moss has spoken about this ending with the precision of someone who has carried the character for years and knows exactly where she needs to land. This is not just a series finale, it is a statement. 13. American Crime Story. Season 4. Ryan Murphy's anthology machine returns with a new chapter that forces America to look at itself in the mirror once again. The series has made a habit of taking cases and scandals that once dominated headlines and reshaping them into something more layered, exploring not just what happened, but who benefits from the narrative and who gets buried beneath it. Previous seasons examined the O.J. Simpson trial, the murder of Gianni Versace, and the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal, each time revealing how power, race, and media shape our perception of truth. The 4th season enters that same territory with a fresh subject and 34 Emmy nominations worth of storytelling pedigree behind it. Murphy's approach has always been to find the human wreckage underneath the spectacle, the people whose lives became cautionary tales, courtroom arguments, or tabloid fodder. Whether you are already familiar with the real-world events at the center of this season, or coming in completely cold, the series is designed to unsettle you. Compulsive, sharp, and more relevant than it has any right to be. 12. Tell Me Lies. Season 3. Some relationships are less love stories and more slow-motion disasters you cannot stop watching. This series has built its entire identity on that uncomfortable truth. Based on Carola Lovering's novel, the show follows Lucy and Steven across a timeline spanning 8 years from the electric, unsettling beginning of their college romance to the long shadow it casts over every choice they make afterward. Steven is not a villain in the traditional sense. He is something far more dangerous, charming, perceptive, and completely aware of how to use both qualities to control the people around him. Season 3 picks up with the consequences of everything that came before, and his ability to manipulate has only grown more refined. What makes this series genuinely compelling is not the twists, it is the way it implicates Lucy too, forcing viewers to sit with the discomfort of watching someone choose, repeatedly, to stay inside a dynamic that is clearly destroying her. This season is not asking you to forgive either of them. It is asking you to understand why it is so hard to walk away. 11. Scrubs. Revival. Season 10. Sacred Heart Hospital is open again. 20 years after the original series said goodbye, Zach Braff and Donald Faison return as JD and Turk, the friendship at the emotional center of one of the most beloved medical comedies in television history. Sarah Chalke is back as well, alongside appearances from John C. McGinley and Judy Reyes, giving longtime fans the reunion they never quite stopped hoping for. Bill Lawrence, who created the original and later gave the world Ted Lasso, is steering this revival with the same understanding of what made the show work. The comedy was always in service of something real. Scrubs was never just about jokes. It was about learning to live inside uncertainty, about grief wearing the costume of laughter, and about the kind of friendships that hold you together when everything else falls apart. The revival faces the challenge every legacy continuation does, proving it has something new to say while honoring what made the original matter. Early signs suggest it might actually pull it off. No expiration date on a story this human. 10. The Beauty. What if the thing you wanted most came at a cost you could not see until it was too late? That is the premise lurking at the center of this new FX series from Ryan Murphy, based on the comic by Jeremy Haun and Jason A. Hurley. The story imagines a world where a mysterious infectious disease has a very unusual side effect. It makes those it touches physically irresistible, not subtly more attractive. Irresistibly, disturbingly, almost supernaturally beautiful. And in a world already obsessed with appearance, that changes everything. The 11-episode season uses this high-concept premise as a delivery system for something far more pointed. A searing look at how deeply our culture has conflated beauty with worth, youth with power, and appearance with virtue. Murphy is working in the same register he used on American Horror Story, using genre excess to reveal anxieties that are too uncomfortable to address head-on. The horror here is not just physical. It is the way people react when perfection becomes contagious, and who gets left behind when it spreads. 9. Deli Boys. What do you do when your father dies and leaves behind not just a convenience store empire, but an entire criminal underworld you knew absolutely nothing about? That is the impossible situation facing two pampered Pakistani-American brothers who built their lives on the assumption that their family's wealth came from retail. It did not. Created by Abdullah Saeed, this series arrived in 2025 as one of Hulu's most unexpectedly sharp comedies, blending culture clash humor with genuine crime genre tension in a way that feels both absurd and oddly emotional. The brothers are the kind of characters who are catastrophically unqualified for the world they have inherited, and watching them try to navigate it is as funny as it is surprisingly moving. Season 2 expands the criminal landscape around them, adds new characters, and raises the stakes while keeping the chemistry between the leads exactly as chaotic and endearing as it was from the start. The show understands something that most crime stories miss. The funniest version of danger is the one involving people who have absolutely no business being there. 8. Malcolm in the Middle. Life's still unfair. 2 decades later, and life is still just as unfair. The Wilkerson family returns on April 10 Inches, a 4-episode special that brings back the chaotic household that defined a generation of television comedy. Frankie Muniz is back as an adult. Malcolm navigating parenthood while the same dysfunctional family orbit he escaped keeps pulling him back in. Bryan Cranston and Jane Kaczmarek return as Hal and Lois, celebrating their 40th anniversary in a way that can only be described as deeply, recognizably themselves. Nearly the entire original cast is present, with the notable absence of Eric Pursullivan's Dewey. What made the original series extraordinary was not just the comedy, it was the way it treated its characters as real people caught inside impossible circumstances, never letting the absurdity completely swallow the heart. The revival faces every challenge a beloved legacy project faces. The risk of nostalgia, overwhelming story, of familiar faces substituting for genuine emotion. 4 episodes is a tight window, but if anyone knows how to make chaos feel like home, it is this family. 7. Dying for sex. A terminal diagnosis. a marriage left behind, and a decision to finally, completely live. This FX limited series, inspired by the true story of Molly Kochan and the podcast she created with her best friend Nikki Boyer, is one of the most surprising, uncomfortable, and oddly life-affirming things to arrive on streaming in recent memory. Michelle Williams plays Molly, a woman who receives a stage 4 metastatic breast cancer diagnosis and responds not with retreat but with pursuit specifically, the pursuit of desire, intimacy, and everything she had been quietly denying herself for years. All 8 episodes arrived on Hulu on the 4th of April, 2025, and the response was immediate. Williams won the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a limited series in 2026 for a performance critics described as one of the finest of her career. Jenny Slate co-stars as Nikki, whose loyalty and love anchor the story in something tender even when it gets raw. There is no moralizing here, and no apology either. This is a story about a woman who decided to stop waiting for permission to feel everything she had put off. 6. The Testaments. 15 years have passed since June. Osborne's name became a symbol of resistance inside Gilead. But the regime is still standing, and somewhere inside it, secrets powerful enough to bring it down are being kept by the most unlikely guardian imaginable. Premiering April 8, and based on Margaret Atwood's sequel novel, this series works as a standalone story while deepening the world built by its predecessor. Chase Infinity leads the cast in a narrative that follows young women navigating the inner sanctum of Gilead, a preparatory school for future wives where obedience is instilled with terrifying precision and divine justification. Creator Bruce Miller expands the storytelling lens, shifting away from June's perspective to explore how the regime looks from within, how people survive it, believe in it, and in some cases quietly dismantle it from the inside. The bond between the two young protagonists becomes the emotional core of the series, a connection formed in secrecy and forged under pressure. This is the part of the story that Atwood wanted told next. 5. Alien. Earth. Season 1. The year is 2120. Earth is governed by 5 competing corporations, each with its own private army, its own agenda, and its own secrets. When a deep space research vessel crashes in the wrong territory, a young hybrid named Wendy, the first of her kind, leads a group of tactical soldiers to investigate. What they find will redefine the planet's greatest threat. Created by Noah Hawley and executive produced by Ridley Scott, this FX series marks the first time the Alien franchise has made the leap to television, and it did so on its own terms. The 8-episode first season premiered the 12th of August 2025 on Hulu, and immediately established itself as one of the most ambitious genre projects on streaming. Hawley constructed a world with genuine weight, corporate paranoia, hybrid identity, and the slow-building dread of creatures that evolution designed to be perfect predators. Sydney Chandler anchors the series in a performance that carries both the physical and emotional demands of a character caught between two worlds. Season 2 is already confirmed. But the first season stands entirely on its own as something exceptional. 4. Paradise. Season 2. Somewhere underground, a carefully constructed world is unraveling. The people who built it had reasons they are not ready to share. The people who live inside it are starting to ask questions they were never supposed to ask. Season 2 arrived February 23 with 3 opening episodes, continuing the story of a subterranean community that emerged following a catastrophic global event. Created by Dan Fogelman, the mind behind This Is Us, and led by Sterling K. Brown, the series uses a non-linear narrative structure to layer mystery on top of mystery, peeling back the origins of the refuge and the people who designed it with the patience of a story that knows exactly where it is going. Brown's performance remains the emotional anchor in a show that is deliberately withholding, not in a way that frustrates, but in a way that rewards. The Season 1 finale left audiences with enough unanswered questions to fuel months of speculation. This season, those threads tighten, the mythology deepens, and the truth about who constructed this world, and why, begins to surface in ways that change everything that came before. Only Murders in the Building, Season 6. The podcast has gone international. Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez pack their microphones and their considerable combined energy and relocate the operation to London for the 6th season of the series that made true crime comedy feel fresh and genuinely emotional. Charles, Oliver, and Mabel are still solving murders. They are still a deeply unlikely trio, and they are still, somehow, exactly what the other needs. The new season brings in Christoph Waltz and Renee Zellweger, an addition that raises both the comedic potential and the mystery stakes considerably. What the show has always understood, through every guest cast addition and every new case, is that the crime is almost beside the point. The real subject is loneliness and connection. 3 people in different stages of life who stumbled into friendship through the worst possible circumstances and cannot quite seem to let go of each other. Moving the action to London creates new comic possibilities while keeping the emotional core intact. One of streaming's most reliable pleasures, warm, funny, occasionally devastating, and always worth showing up for. 2. The Bear Season 5 Final Season. The kitchen is closing. 21 Emmy Awards. 4 seasons of controlled chaos, grief, ambition, and the kind of ensemble performance that does not happen by accident. The 5th and final season arrives on Hulu in summer 2026, closing the story of the series that changed how television talks about work, trauma, and the cost of excellence. Jeremy Allen White, Ayo Edebiri, and Eben Moss-Bachrach return to close out a story that creator Christopher Storer originally designed across 4 seasons before extending it by one final chapter. Season 4 ended with a structural earthquake, the decision to walk away from the restaurant entirely, stepping back from the culinary world that defined and nearly destroyed its central character. Now what? That is the question this final season must answer. Jamie Lee Curtis confirmed filming wrapped in early 2026. This series never asked for your sympathy. It demanded your attention. And it earned it by showing how people fall apart, and, sometimes, how they hold together. Anyway, this ending will be watched closely. And it will be remembered. 1. The Handmaid's Tale. Season 6, final season. 6 seasons, 19 Emmy wins, and the chapter that closes everything. Few series in streaming history have accomplished what this one did, redefining an entire platform, building a cultural conversation that lasted nearly a decade, and creating a character in June Osborne who became a symbol far beyond the screen. Elizabeth Moss stars, directs, and produces this final season, closing an arc that began with a woman trapped and ends with a world that can no longer ignore what it built. Gilead is under pressure. The cracks that open season after season are now fractures, and the series has to answer a question that has been on the table for years. How do you end a story about resistance without betraying those who resisted? Margaret Atwood laid the foundation. Bruce Miller built the world. Moss inhabited it with a precision rarely seen on television. This is not just the end of a series. It is the closing of a complete era of prestige television, and that is why it leads this list. And that is our countdown of the 15 most important series on Hulu in 2026. From long-running legends closing their final chapter to bold new stories already generating conversation, this platform has put together one of the strongest lineups in its history. If you found this video useful, please take a moment to leave your like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. That small gesture helps more than you might think and allows us to keep bringing you this kind of content. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. We will see you in the next one.